Okay, can I call a budget meeting of council to order for Monday, March 27th, 2023? Approval of the agenda, please. Councillor Julik.
That the March 27th, 2023 Budget Council meeting agenda be adopted as presented.
Second. Councillor Norbury. All in favor? Carried. Resolution to close meeting. Recommendation, please. Councillor Dussault.
That the March 27th, 2023 budget meeting of council be closed to the public pursuant to subsection 91C and G of the Community Charter to permit discussion relating to C, labor relations and other employee relations, and G, litigation or potential litigation affecting the municipality.
Seconder. Councillor Noxana. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Down here. Or up there. Just waiting for information from staff. Okay, we'll go. We're just going to continue on to new business and we'll come back to number 4 at the end. 5.1, draft 2023 to 2027 water fund financial plan. Report dated March 27th, 2023 from the interim CEO and Director of Corporate Services regarding the draft 2023-2027 water fund financial plan. Recommendation, please. Councillor Julik.
That council receives the proposed 2023 to 2027 operating budget for the water fund for discussion.
Seconder. Councillor Dussault. All in favor? Carried. Mr. Orville, can we get an overview from staff?
Thank you. I will refer to our budget specialist for this budget season, and she'll gladly give you an overview.
Thank you, Mr. Orville. In front of you, you'll see the proposed 2023 to 2027 operating budget for the water fund. It has been determined that normally parcel tax covers for capital expenditures and user fees covers for the operating costs. Upon review over the last couple of years, it's been determined that the parcel taxes have been utilized towards operating. Well, that's allowable. It's not best practices for putting the funds aside. So a proposed schedule for increasing the user fees for water is in front of you, which would include a 10% increase to the water fund starting in 2024 for the years 2024, 25, 26, and 27. That would bring the user fees in line with the water operating fund.
Okay. Any discussion from council? Okay, do you need a motion this time?
If I could have a motion that you're accepting this, and I will build this into the 5-year financial plan.
Council? Councillor Hoffman.
Thank you, Mayor. I move that the council amend the water user rates bylaw with 10% increases for the next 4 years.
Seconder. Councillor Julik. Discussion? Call the question. All in favor? Carried. 5.2, options for the fire prevention and inspection vehicle. Reported dated March 27th, 2023 from the Director of Protective Services. Protective Service and Fire Chief regarding council requested options for the fire prevention inspection vehicle capital project. Recommendation. Councillor Julik.
That council receives this report for discussion.
Seconder. Councillor Hoffman. Discussion from council. Councillor Noxana.
It has listed in here the uses for the fire truck being commercial inspections, residential safety inspections, wet inspections, things like that. And I'm just wondering approximately how many a month or a year are done through our fire department.
Ms. Dorval.
Yes, thank you, Council. I will ask Mr. Curry to speak to that.
Your Worship, Council, to Councillor Noxana's question. So currently we conduct commercial fire inspections on about 90 commercial properties. We also do fire inspections on some residential properties that are high risk, some home-based occupations. We currently conducted 35 wet inspections last year, as well as 5 residential home inspections. It's difficult right now to talk about or to quantify the amount of times where we've been called out just for the amount of consultations that we do. So typically for every one wet inspection, we might visit that property up to 2 or 3 times. So on a weekly basis, we're probably doing opportunities in between 2 to 5 times per week, where we're utilizing either the council vehicle, a district fleet vehicle where required, and/or the current command unit, depending on who has the coverage for that week. This doesn't take into consideration any of the times that we're sending firefighters out to training outside of the community. They're out on courses, conferences, et cetera. So right now, we're looking at 4 weekends just in the first half of 2023, where we're sending firefighters out for other conferences or to attend live fire training, which is a requirement.
Thank you. Any more discussion? Councillor Julik?
So just to be clear, the only light vehicle you have is currently the one that you guys go to, like when I say light vehicle, I'm just thinking a regular pickup truck that's not outfitted for all the fire things. And might be misunderstanding that that's not what we're looking for here, because what I'm seeing in your options here are standard emergency package and then the minimal emergency package. And what I'm thinking, and I know you probably have given us a list of the fleet things, but in my mind, there's the truck that whoever's on call is taking home in case there's a call, but then there's not a second vehicle, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Would, if we went ahead with this, would other departments have access to this truck the same as the fire department has access to our other fleet vehicles?
I'll go to staff. Ms. Torval?
Thank you. I'll refer to Chief Curry.
Your worship and council, so what I've provided is as Councillor Julik said, so you've got the standard emergency equipment, which is lights, sirens, a radio. It does have a center console in it for any of the equipment that we have to carry, just in, off the off chance, pre-fire plans, masks, et cetera. The basic emergency equipment is still lights, sirens, but no center console, and it's just gonna be the availability just to provide that code 3 response if it's required. We can look at options to do, instead of having lights on the top of the vehicle, having lights on the inside, so it looks more like an actual fleet vehicle. This is becoming more common in municipalities that want to use it. We don't have to decal it like a fire truck, so if that was the case, it could be utilized for fleet use, but typically what I've proposed is to have emergency lighting on it. So there's nothing to say that we couldn't use it in that capacity, but it would have lights and sirens on it.
Okay, follow up.
Sorry.
Don't be sorry.
All the buttons. So my question would then be, would the price difference be considerably more to make those adaptations if we were to go ahead to approve one of these vehicles?
Ms. Torval?
Thank you. Chief Curry.
Your worship and council, so the price difference in order for us to not decal it would be negligible. The decaling for it would probably, the lack of decaling would offset the costs, because the cost to do the lighting on the inside is more expensive to do. It would be lighting across the top of the window and everything like that. They call it ghost lighting, similar to what you'd have in like a ghost police car. It's more low profile, it's LED, it's a little bit more than what the typical standard light bar would be.
Answer your question? Yes. Okay. Any more discussion from council? Councilor Julik?
I guess I'm just wondering, are we at the point where we need to make a motion so that we know what we're doing for the budget? Is that where we're at now?
It's actually still in our budget.
Oh, okay. So,
This was just options that we asked in the previous one to come back with.
so currently the yellow is the one that's in the budget.
Correct.
Okay.
Okay, 5.3, draft 2023 general fund budget summary. Report dated March 27th, 2023, from the interim CEO and Director of Corporate Services regarding the draft 2023 general fund budget summary. Recommendation? Councillor Dussault?
That council receives this report for information or discussion. Oh, hang on, I'm on the wrong page. Sorry, that council receives the draft 2023 general fund budget summary for discussion.
Seconder? Councillor Norberry? All in favor? Carried. Ms. Torval, can we get an overview first and then start the
Thank you. I'll
process?
present, refer to Ms. Weiner. You can take it away.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Torville. In front of you is based on, first of all, the deliberations that took place by council earlier, the capital, as well as the proposed operating budget for the 5-year financial plan, which is showing an increase in operating of 4.96% to taxation, and it would be a 1.8% increase to taxation based on the decisions that were previously made. It's a lower than what the number was at the end of last meeting, and that's because we had some PRA funding that needed to be allocated, and so I did that, which dropped the number even more. So as we go through the process today, I'm proposing that I lead you through each of the different functions, council, administration, each of the budgets, and councils to make cuts at this point in time, because after this meeting is where I will put it all together to develop the 5-year financial plan. So as you make decisions, I will be making updates on here so we can have live updates, so you can know exactly where the numbers are coming in. That being said, I'm ready to move into the first budget if council so wishes.
Okay. So just so council's aware of this, if we're going to remove anything from the budget, this is the meeting to do it at. If everything stays in the budget as is, then we'll proceed. And then the one thing I'll say, thanks to staff, is we can do it as live. So we'll see the adjustments if we make any. So, okay, if staff wants to continue.
So the first budget that I'm putting them forward, and this is taking council, this is council's budget. So staff did not make adjustments necessarily to this budget, and I'm taking council through the sort of the process that I did with staff as well. So wanting to ask questions. So they'll see that there's some highlighted items on this one. The actual budget for 2022 was $288,000. The budget was $290,000, and the proposed is $301,000, which is a budget increase for this budget of 3.78, but for taxation, it's 0.12%. That being said, office equipment, the actual amount that was spent in 2022 was $2,140. So I'd like council to consider the budget in 2022 is $12,250, and the current budget proposed for 2023 is $10,000. So council may wish to reduce that amount, and if they do, we can put that into the budget. The other one is the contingency that was in there. Was actually spent as $20,683 for 2022, and it's proposed to have a $35,000 contingency in that fund for 2023. Personal cost for travel, and I understand that one.
Can you just make it bigger, please?
Oh.
'Cause we don't all have these sheets in our agenda.
Yeah.
That's what we were talking about earlier, so I
Yeah.
think.
So can you see that one?
Yeah, if you want to move it over, there you go.
That's what I was going to say. So can you see that one?
I can, yeah.
Okay. So personnel costs for travel, in 2022, the travel was $20,592, and the budget was $75,000. It's been left at $75,000. Understanding COVID's been in place for the last couple of years, and actual costs may not be the same. Council may wish to leave that at the $75,000, or they may wish to reduce or increase it. So those are the 3 areas I'm looking for some direction on from council before we proceed on to the next budget.
Council? Councillor Hoffman.
Thank you, Mayor. Just starting with the top-down office equipment, are we talking about like a potential photocopier, or is it more like office supplies? Like, I'm just worried that you need a computer or 2 over the course of the year, so if we trim that too much, I don't want you to get caught.
Ms. Torval? Or staff, sorry.
That's okay. That could be for any miscellaneous things, not miscellaneous, but sometimes we take from the office equipment budget for Christmas party. Things come up like door prizes and sorts of things, and I don't know, the naming of those accounts could do with some changes, but to get them renamed, but in order to capture things that may come up, so for council.
Councillor Julick, you're good there, Councillor Hoffman?
That's-
Sorry,
yes,
my
that's it.
apologies. Councillor Julick?
I was just going to say I'm comfortable with this number.
Councillor Noxena?
Is there a way that we can take things like in this page? Page 15, our agenda package, we have things like chairs for council chambers. Could that come out of office equipment and we take that line item out of our budget?
Staff?
So we could leave that the same, but take this out, or the opposite?
Chairs for council budget, that's, or council chambers?
It's capital, yeah.
It's capital and special projects budget.
Yeah, I can speak to it.
Can that be removed? And that, I think, Councillor Noxana's question was, could the chairs for the chambers come out of that amount that's sitting there?
Absolutely, that number could be reduced by the amount from the chairs, which is under the special projects. The only reason I would actually look at potentially adjusting that is that's a one-time cost for chairs. And this is an ongoing budget. This also means you guys have potential for, I don't know about cell phones, laptops, those type of things that may come in under equipment. This is council's budget for those type of things as well. So I would rather reduce the office equipment and leave the chairs as is because it's a one-time only. That would also mean, though, in future years, you're reducing that budget for the next 4 years as well.
Correct. I guess, I heard from Councillor Juliak, and I feel the same way about leaving it the same. But I think there needs to be clarity when it comes to some of these lines when we're not sure what it's for. Because I believe when we talk about laptops and such, staff, correct me if I'm wrong, I believe that's under IT.
Yes, it is.
So this is totally something different when we talk about that. So I'm not sure if there's a way of just tracking that line or some of these lines that we come up with that we're really not sure of what it's used for. If we can watch what it's being coded from, then maybe it just needs to be, maybe it's actually with another line item, but it's been separated from that code. I'm not sure how council feels, but I know I'm comfortable where Councillor Juliak said the same thing. Councillor Juliak?
So I guess I'm just wondering how we're going to go ahead. So we need to let our staff know, yes, we're okay, instead of all sitting here. So what do you propose as an option? Like, once you say, is everybody good, then we're just going to move on?
Yeah, I don't think, I think making motions for every item that comes forward on this sheet. I mean, I think if there's somebody who wants to remove something, like, it was just mentioned about chairs, when we get to that page, if somebody wants to remove something, a motion there. I think if we're comfortable with it, as long as we get the nods, and if council would prefer, we can do motions.
Okay.
But my thoughts, if nobody has an issue and wants it removed, then we just leave it.
Okay.
Councillor Noxena.
Can I motion that we lower those three amounts to something closer to actual spend, sorry.
Top one was 2140.
So even if we cut the top one in half, that still leaves a lot of wiggle room from what was spent last year. So budget 5,000. For contingency budget 24. Personnel could be 30. Oh, there we go. I probably have that here.
Can we make it bigger?
Yep, I can make it even bigger.
Sorry, it's tough when it's on the screen and not in front of us. I know we some of us have laptops here, but
Yeah. So the top
I'd
one
have to turn my
here,
head.
If we put 5 in that one,
5 here,
24 in the next one, and
that's the
I know
contingency.
we'll do more travel, you would hope, as COVID restrictions lift, but even if you left it at 35, 40, it still takes a lot of money out of there that we're not spending.
So we need to make a motion. Maybe we just do one line at a time.
Okay, so
Yeah, I think it'd just be easier so it's clear in all of our heads.
I'm motioning that office equipment goes to 5,000.
Okay, seconder. Councillor Hoffman. Discussion. Councillor Norbury.
Thank you,
Hang on a second, sorry,
Thank you, Mayor Kukelka. I'd like to ask the staff just sort of what would happen if we went above $5,000? Because I know in my experience and what I've been told is that it's good to have a little more so we don't have to come back to council for additional funds. We'd have to make adjustments. We'd have to make approval of unbudgeted funds, and then, we're pulling from reserves versus taxation. So two-parter, what happens if we reach that $5,000 quicker than anticipated? Let's start with one, and I'll go with the second one.
it'd be a motion for unbudgeted funds.
So I would rather trust staff in their estimations at this point in time before we lower it. And my second question would be, what would happen to the funds if we didn't spend it? Does it go into general reserves? Yeah, just to, I mean, I know what happens, but I'd like to hear it.
Okay, we'll go to staff, because when I mentioned about the unbudgeted fund, I got the nod no. So she can, staff can answer both.
Through the mayor to Councillor Norbury. This is an overall budget. It's the bottom line that matters. So if it went over the 5,000 and other lines were under, you wouldn't be coming back to council. The only time you'd be coming back to council if you were foreseeing that you were going to go over that bottom line or the total budget for the council.
Sorry, and that's what I meant. My apologies. So it'd be that whatever the line is to the, in regards to the decrease. Okay. Any more discussion in regards to the motion? Councillor Hoffman.
Thank you, Mayor. I mean, just sitting here and looking at it and going, do I want to nitpick on $5,000 lines? No, I really don't. But when you're looking at the three of them, there's $70,000 that we're having budgeted above, or sorry, having budgeted above our actual the previous year. And whether we do 5,000 there and like the individual numbers, I think that just shows that our budget is just too high. I think it's more helpful to staff, and please correct me if I'm wrong, to have a little bit more closer to accurate, like not threefold or fivefold on a budget line. So I'm going to say that if we're going to do it like this row by row, I would agree with Councillor Noxana. There's no real reason that we can't just budget 5,000. There's apparently slack built into a total budget. And if this isn't even going to be computers and electronics, if that's a separate budget, I'm fine with it.
Staff? Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
Thank you. So for that top line there for the office equipment, that was for council's laptops this year. $8,000 was spent. Oh, just a mayor for the first one? Okay, just a mayor's. Wasn't $8,000, but.
I was going to say $8,000. Okay, well, I'm glad we got clarity on what that budget line is, so I thank staff that, because it's, at the beginning, we had no understanding, so. Councillor Hoffman, did you have a follow-up after I cut you off there? No. Okay, apologize. Councillor Julik.
I'm going to be voting against the motion. I simply feel like $15,000, in the grand scheme, it's better to have a little bit of cushion in that. I think we're all new to this role. I think that there could be some unforeseen costs coming our way, just whether it be in training or something like that, or it gives us the ability to put that into our regular stuff. We also have, that new funding at the end there, we can put some stuff to. It's in the back of the, I don't remember what it's called.
Growing Communities Fund?
Growing Communities Fund. I think that, and I think we're always gonna have trouble on the first one. I think we'll breeze through the rest of them hopefully, but yeah, I'm comfortable with the way it is.
Okay, any more discussion? So when I hear from staff stating that, you know, if there's some money there and we need some money somewhere else, and correct me if I'm wrong, well, we can use it here instead of there. Is that correct from staff when we said that?
You look at the bottom line for each of these different services. So council's got a bottom line, and that's what we look at. But it's just been brought to my attention, so far, all of the laptops have come in this year at $8,000 for this year's, for council. So that's where all the laptops went, and that's the 2023 budget, which is not shown on here. So I thought we'd be popping that information in.
Okay, any more discussion? Call the question on the motion. All in favor? Opposed? Motion's defeated.
I voted against mine last week.
There you go. Okay, is there anything there else that council wants to discuss, the other two items?
That's,
One's the contingency and the other one's personnel costs for travel. Councilor Noxana.
Is there a way to look back at what we spent out of these in 21, 20? When you look at travel, that's a hard one to take down now when we don't see what it was in 19. Because I think that our travel budget would be closer to pre-COVID now.
Yeah, I'm not sure if staff can get that information, what we spent pre-COVID. I think the other difference is now too, is we've added a position which is the executive assistant. And I believe you'll see more travel from staff side as well when it comes to that. Today was a prime example. Myself and staff member traveled to West Moberly for a meeting. So that's close. That travel's caught up with using the vehicle and stuff. But I honestly think the budget, I'm not sure if staff would have the number to pre-COVID.
Looking back, it was much closer pre-COVID. I do know the last 2 years, which was readily available for me when I ran it off, there was, of course, definitely a discrepancy in that. And that's why I had mentioned pre-COVID, that this is why, because there probably is a likelihood of increased travel.
Okay, Councilor Norbury?
Thank you, Mayor Kukalka, and I'd like to see it a little, I think this is good. It's better to have a little more in this budget line because this is the time now, this year is where we're gonna figure out what conferences, what events are important to us, and we should be going to all these things to find out, exactly what's happening, because it is a lot of our first time in council, and you should be going to these things, because you'd be surprised the stuff you bring back, and it's very useful, and then we can look at what this year is, and then we could budget accordingly in the next few years, but this year it's better to have a little more than less.
Okay. Think we're good. We're good. Oh,
Okay.
sorry, I thought somebody was pointing that I missed the councilor, but
Okay.
yeah, I think council's good with what if you proposed there.
Okay, for the operating, now let's move down to the bottom half of this, which shows a total, which council has the breakdown on their own sheets that was attached, which was used for deliberations at the last meeting. I don't have that to put on the screen, but you show that there's $42,000 worth of capital and special projects that have been approved to date, which would be coming from new funding, which amounts to 0.45% increase in taxation.
Yep.
So if council's okay with all of those, we would proceed with the plan, so.
Okay, so I'll just read off the first one, which is culture awareness, safety. That's to hire a consultant to do the workshop. Any concern from council? Councilor Julik?
I just had a quick question. Is that for senior staff? Is that just for council? Is that for all staff? Do you know?
So this one was put forward for council, and then staff would invite the staff that would fit that. I don't want to say it's all the staff, but I think that's up to the CAO. Normally it is all staff, though. The coat of arms for council chambers.
Like, is it here already?
No.
We don't have one at all.
Chairs for council chambers. Okay. We're good.
We will move on to administration then. And it's kind of shrinked as I talk through it. So this is the administration budget, and 2022, the actuals was 1.5 million. The 22 budget was 1.6 million. And the proposed budget is 1.645, is an increase of 0.31% for the budget and a 0.05% for taxation. I did want to break out one section on this, and that is the grant and aid for the library. Now, the library is in the
Oh, hang on a second. Oh, sorry, Councilor Norbury.
If I work at the library, so I have a pecuniary interest, so I need to state
Okay.
a conflict.
Thanks.
Okay. Yeah.
Pick a side. Okay.
Okay.
Stuff.
So the library, because it's in the letters patent, it's considered on its own. I wanted to mention, though, please think about it as if it was any other service or if it was on a budget individually on its own when you consider this. And so the request that's in front of you is they have requested $406,268. This, as an increase compared to what was given last year, is a 13% increase on its own and would amount to a 0.5% taxation increase just for this line item itself. They have requested 7% higher than their ask last year, as their indication was that's to deal with, I think, higher wages, mandatory sick days, those type of things is the rationale behind it. So this is, out of this budget, the number one place I think that council needs to take a look at, because it actually is one of the higher increases that have not yet been approved by council.
Okay.
I can make this bigger.
Yeah,
You wanna take a look at it?
just about to ask if you could
Yeah.
just make that bigger and slide it down so we can see what we're looking at,
Yeah.
please. That's what you're looking for.
So this is the library. Grant and aid for the library, 360 was the amount for last year. That was expended, 360 was the budget. The request for this year is 406,268, which is an increase of 46,000. Compared to the whole admin budget, it's a 2.82% increase to the admin budget. But as I mentioned, you need to look at this alone. It would be like its own service, which is actually a 13% increase to its line over line. And it amounts to a 0.5% increase to taxation.
Can you just do me a favor? Can you go right to the far left of that screen and go up to, I just want to see what the 4.34 increase is.
The hold on. This way or the other
Yeah,
way?
yeah, that way, but I'm not sure if it's the third or fourth line. Second line, thanks. Just want to know what that line
Oh,
was.
the 4.3? Okay, I was going to go back to those ones after we dealt with the library, and we'll
Okay.
go back to the operating. I just wanted to deal with the library as the number one because the 4.3 was based on a new hire that was approved already by council previously.
Okay. Councillor Hoffman.
Thank you, Mayor. Glad you're here. I was wondering, is it possible to remove the grant and aid as a line item? I know there's some sensitivities in town regarding as what I would also agree is a misclassification for our library. So I'm just wondering, simple, is it possible to put it without the grant and aid as a line item?
Are you just trying to get an idea of what the increase for this budget would be
No,
without
just
it?
as a separate issue from what the budget is, that there's, as I said, some sensitivities in town of the misclassification, and I just want to know if it impacts anything to remove grant in aid as part of its description.
Unfortunately, it's a granting function. You're giving money as a grant to a thing, so to another operations. So because it is a granting function, it is not a service provided by the District of Tumbler Ridge. It cannot be removed as a grant and aid because you're giving a grant for another operation to operate.
Okay. Thank you.
No problem.
Okay. Any discussion in regards to the library? I believe that's what staff's looking for.
Yep.
Councillor Hoffman.
Next issue. This one's for you, Mayor. There's some contentiousness on the budget last year. I understand some of it was from the library. I was wondering if you can clarify, or staff can clarify, what the budget was previously to last year? Because what I understand is it was dropped last year over service levels and other considerations.
What the ask was for last year compared to what they received?
No, what with the previous year from last year, what it was, and how much was it cut, or if it was cut last year?
It wasn't cut last year. I can't remember the increase, but staff?
Through the mayor to Councillor Hoffman. Last year, the library had requested $377,093, but only $360,000 was granted by the District of
So
Tumbler
about
Ridge.
4%. And do you have the year before by any?
And what about 2021?
I do not have 2021 in front of me.
No, fair enough. Thank
Are
you.
we able to look that up? I think that's the information you're
Yeah,
asking
that's what I
about?
was-
Can we look that up?
340.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks to staff. But yeah, that was what you were asking for.
Yeah, I
I
was
just
just
couldn't
trying to
remember the
get a
numbers.
sense, and ideally, I'd love to go back before COVID for basically every line item, but I don't want to do that to everybody here, so we'll just go with where we're at.
Okay. Any more discussion in regards to the library? Okay. Nope.
Sorry.
Nope. Councillor Noxena.
Are we allowed to pick a number in between there? I know they're asking for the 46,000 increase. If we increased it 20,000 in '22, can we do another 20 this year? Cut it back a little bit, but not give them the full ask?
Yep.
Is that reasonable?
Yep, you can do that. It's so,
And what would that mean, I guess, on their end?
so previously, and I think that's why the library reached out. I know we received an email. The last meeting, I asked Ms. Torval if it was responded to, and it was. And this is where the library talked about it, Councillor Hoffman, I think that's why you brought it forward in regards to why is it listed as a grant and aid and stuff, is they were talking about why their employee does, the board was asking why the employee doesn't sit at the table with staff, and staff, someone answered it. We're actually governing and giving money to a board of directors then that takes that in turn to run the library with an employee. So in the previous discussions we've always had in regards to council in my previous terms, we've had the library come as a delegation. Usually I'm not even sure, I won't say we get to the library budget earlier than we have. I think it's about the same time. And normally before we decrease them, we ask them to come in for a delegation. I mean, I know they're asking stuff like that, and it, normally it comes down to their wages and in those implications. But we can set the amount to whatever amount we decide as a council as a whole or majority. It just has to be by motion.
Okay, so maybe we just ask them to come in and answer those questions then.
Yep.
Need a motion?
Yeah, we can make a motion for them to come as a delegation. The thing is, the staff is looking for a number for moving forward on the budget. So that's kind of the crunch, right? We can set the amount at whatever, and they can still come as a delegation, and that number can be moved up, I would think. Staff?
That number, before the bylaw is adopted, I mean, you don't usually normally like to make changes on the fly at the last possible minute when you're bringing forward, but council does have that discretion to be able to make that change.
Councillor Hoffman?
Is there a motion on the floor right now?
There's not.
Then I would like to make the motion that we grant as requested and request a delegation, and I would rather reduce than try to increase for staff's ease, if that's correct.
Seconder? Councillor Dussault? Discussion, I'll just get staff to answer that. I wanted to get a second before I,
Yeah, no, that's reasonable.
Through the mayor to Councillor Hoffman, it's as much work and either way, to
Okay.
reduce or to increase, it makes no difference. So feel free to go with what you're comfortable with.
Okay, so even though that your budget's higher, then is that the same slack for anywhere else, or is it because it's a grant and aid, it's not going to work that way?
staff? Yep.
Through the mayor to Councillor Hoffman, what it is we would be reducing the amount in the budget at the last possible minute so we don't overtax. So, and the other way, you'd be increasing at the last possible minute and increasing taxation. So it's a bit of either way, there's last minute changes that have to take place, but you, if you left it in the budget and there was no change and it did, you do decide to do it off for a lower amount, it would mean overtaxation if it wasn't changed, and I don't think you want to go that way.
I don't think you want to go either way, but okay.
Councillor Noxana?
I'd be in support of the motion as it stands. I'd rather reduce taxes if we had to than talk about adding in because the library needed the 46,000 for XYZ.
Okay. Any more discussion? Call the question. All in favor? Opposed? Motion's carried. Can we grab Councillor Noberry, please? Staff?
Okay. So now looking at the administration budget as a whole, there's nothing that was highlighted. There was only one significant increase, which was in the salary full-time line, and that was for a new position that was approved in 2022, so that's coming into the 2023 budget, which has amounted to a $71,000 increase, or 4% of the overall budget. I also want to mention that there's some small amounts that have been reduced, but overall, if this budget goes and proceeds as planned, that there would be an increase of 1.71%. However, that is offset by some special projects, which is the next little section on here. There was a zoning bylaw that was originally budgeted at $180,000 in 2022, and the carry forward is $25,000. And so there is a decrease in the overall budget, which brings it down to a 0.05% increase to taxation for this fund. There's no special projects or capital, so if council wishes, we can proceed with the budget as is.
Okay. Council's all good? Okay.
Moving on to finance, and of course, we all love finance. So the actual for 2022 was a $1.29 million actual. The 2022 budget was a 1.469. The proposed is a 1.3. But the overall budget is having a decrease, so you should be happy. It's a budget decrease of 11.53% and a decreased taxation of 1.81%. And I'm going to highlight the reason why the decrease is there. There was a decrease of $109,000, and that was because of the grants for fee-for-service. There was less grants given out for the 2023 year than there was for the 2022 year. So because of the reduction in the amount of grants that have been given out, there's a reduction on the budget. The other one is for grant and aid, same thing. Because of the reductions for grant and aid, that is a reduction of $61,000 or 4.17% of this budget. I've recommended that grants, contracted services for bad debt is reduced. It was originally budgeted at $30,000, but it's only been minimal amounts for, the 1 year back was about $12,000, which is why I've left it at the $15,000. So, the $3,000 I looked at, and those were sort of things that I went through. I can make this bigger for council if you want to see it bigger now that I've talked about it. Yeah, we can go sort of, there's where the increase and decreases.
Okay, anything from council? Oh, go ahead.
Okay, so as there's no special projects, we will be moving on to fire. So the 2022 fire actual was $553,000. The 2022 budget was 7.14, and the proposed budget for 2023 is 701,000, which is a decrease of about $12,470. Now, the majority, once again, for the decrease on this is due to encroachment enforcement project that was taking place. In 2022, there was $179,380 budgeted for that, and of that, there's only $28,000 carrying forward. So that's like a 21% reduction. Now, I can make this bigger for council, and then you can look at the lines. Oops, not that big. And let's go back this way. There you go.
Okay, any questions? Council Newberry?
Thank you, Mayor Kukalka. Maybe I'm jumping ahead to number C. We're looking at adding a occupational health and safety position. Can we get an explanation on the need that's been expressed to add this position?
Yep, staff?
Thank you. Chief Curry?
Your worship, excuse me, and council. So as a part of an internal review across all departments, occupational health and safety is one of those topics that's largely accomplished by all of the department heads and doesn't get enough attention to, let's say, on a day-to-day operation. So what this position would be is a dedicated exempt staff position to start auditing a lot of the processes that we do in terms of safe work procedures, our investigation processes, site inspections of all of our safety digs and things like that. As I said, it's one of those things that's been done off the desks of department staff and or things that are accomplished by our Occupational Health and Safety Committee, which doesn't really fall under the role of that committee. It's to provide oversight, not to provide actual on-site resources. Inevitably, what happens with so many departments doing it their own way is we don't have consistency across other departments. This has been shown through different documentations, different approaches to investigations, whether that be incident investigations, preventative measures, et cetera. So that's the intention for this position, is to formalize, adopt, provide policy insight.
I'm just going to turn somebody off here, but I'm sorry. Council Norbury?
Thank you, Mayor Kukalka. I turned myself off before I realized I had a follow-up. Would this position be a, lack of a better term, a forever position, or just a one-year contract to get all those audits done?
Ms. Torval?
Thank
you. Chief Curry?
Your worship and Council Norbury, the intention is for this to be a forever position, based on the need that we're only getting more in depth with our safety program. Safety is taking more of a forefront to culture, to everything that we're doing. And in administration's point of view, we're not doing enough in some aspects. We're covering the minimals, where we could be doing a lot more in order to try and position the district to be a safer employer. And I don't mean to say that as we're not a safe employer, but like I said, we're doing the minimal. The other opportunity for this position, as I neglected to mention, was to look at opportunities to engage in the core program through through WorkSafe BC, which would thereby offset our premiums through WCB, WorkSafe BC rather. It's one of those things that we just don't have the manpower to do right now. It's having that maintaining of all of our safe working procedures. They don't just happen on a yearly basis. They happen all the time, right? And they need to be refreshed, and we need to have that constant oversight.
Follow up, Councilor Norbury?
Do we know how much our premiums will be offset?
Mr. Orville, sorry.
Your worship, Councilor, at this point, it's not clear what our offset will be. It all depends on what our current premiums are, which I'm not aware of. We can find out that information and get back to council.
Thank you. Any follow-up, no, Councilor Norbury? Okay. So I guess just a question about it, I didn't realize that was coming up right away, but just about to staff on that, does this person report to HR then? Because I remember this discussion previously when there was an HR director and then we had an intern HR, and how this was supposed to be, I believed it was supposed to be interlined with the two positions that were created? Mr. Orville?
No.
Okay. Any follow-up before we move on, or you can come up for discussion later too, if we need be. Any counselors? Counselor Hoffman.
Thank you, Mayor. I tried to listen, I swear. Is this, so are we talking about just for the fire department, or is this position actually looking at the procedures throughout the entire overhead? So just for my clarity, why would it be under fire for a budgetary line if it's really seems more of a, under the CAO or HR or any other?
Oh, hang on, sorry, I thought you were done, so
Sorry, it just doesn't seem to belong there for what you're describing. It doesn't seem to be really a safety or a fire thing. It seems to be more of a procedural position.
Ms. Torval.
Your worship and to council, so you're right, Councillor Hoffman. It is kind of that, why is it in the fire department? For lack of a better term, the fire department is already trained in incident investigations. So the department head, for lack of a better term, myself, we're trained in investigations through fires, through incident management, through root cause analysis. We already have some insight to that. I agree, it's more of a, where does it fit nicely within the district as opposed to the fire department? It's not designed to be a fire department position. It was just, it didn't belong solely with Public Works. It didn't belong solely with the community center, any specific department. So having one department that's completely unbiased, I guess you could say, for a better term. And currently, my position has been doing a lot of the inspections, or the investigations rather, when it comes to higher acuity or higher risk. So it was just one of those things. And as my position with the Occupational Health and Safety Committee as the chair, it just fell into my lap.
Follow-up, Councillor Hoffman.
Thank you. That's a good explanation, given the circumstances. Appreciate it.
Councillor Noxana.
I just want to say I appreciate this. We have 90-some staff and more summer students in the summer. This is great. We should be focusing on safety and how our employers can be, or how our employees can be safer and healthier. And yeah, if it leads to reduced fees for workers' comp or whatever in the future, even better. But it's great.
Any more discussion? Go ahead.
So we've jumped on to that. So the next section is fire capital and special projects. So you will see that there's proposed $293,225 worth of capital projects proposed, I should say capital and special projects proposed within the budget. And that's on those highlighted colored sheets that has already previously been deliberated by council. Of that, funds are coming from grant funding, the PRA funding, as well as surplus carry forward. So there would be remaining $8,000 that would be new capital.
Are you able to pull the list up?
I can't build the list up without having
Okay.
all the
Yep.
information.
I know, just thought it'd be easier to go off the computer. Okay. Council, I don't want to bring anything forward. I mean, we can go one by one, but fire hall facility assessment study, it's a carry forward. Sprinkler, or for the wildfire trailer is a carry forward. Replacement of confined space equipment. Breathing apparatus fit tester. Community wildfire resilience plan. Fire prevention inspection vehicle. Okay, good.
So that leaves the budget remaining as is with a negative, reduction of 0.05% for fire. Moving on to bylaw. Bylaw in 2022, the actual was $105,973. The budget was $126,204. The proposed budget jumps up to $231,728, and that's a 1.13% increase in taxes and an 83.61% increase for the budget. And the main reason for the increase for the budget is if council wants to go to a higher level of service with bylaw enforcement, it would require a second bylaw officer, and that would have the wages and benefits associated with that second bylaw officer. Otherwise, the other adjustments required in bylaw were 0.04%, not very much at all.
Okay, Council Norbury?
Thank you, Mayor Kukalka. So we heard that term, we're going to increase our services by adding a second bylaw officer. What added service increase would we be seeing? Like, would we be seeing just more enforcement on infractions? Or are we going to have like increased hours of operations? Get a little more explanation on what that increase of service would bring to our community?
Ms. Torval?
Thank you, council. Over to Chief Curry.
Your worship and council, so the increase in service by adding a second position would allow for later enforcement. So we would extend our hours, plus we would go to a 4-and-4 rotating schedule to allow for coverage and enforcement in weekends. So currently what we have is a one-off bylaw officer that runs Monday to Friday, 8 to 4:30, with every week we try to throw in a random afternoon shift because it is widely known in the community that bylaw enforcement doesn't happen after hours. If it's an emergency, then it becomes an RCMP issue. If it's a noise regulation, it becomes something that we handle the next day. By adding a second position, we would be utilizing the same vehicle for both positions. We would just go to a 4-and-4 rotating. It could be from 8 in the morning until 7 or 6 in the afternoon, or into the evening rather, so we have that. Plus then we have the ability to have the weekend coverage. Built into this would also be the ability to have animal control services back in after hours. So currently, we're not doing animal control services outside of regular business hours. We've previously had this by an animal control contractor. We've seen that process fail to get any attention. So in all matters, it's not just typical, just a traffic bylaw. We would be enforcing every bylaw, whether that's from building and plumbing, noise, traffic. We could be doing some prep work for our snow removal, getting our vehicles off roads, all that kind of stuff. All manners of bylaw enforcement would be done by these two individuals.
Okay. Before I go to Council Norbury, do we have any statistics from 2022 and how many bylaw tickets were written? Unsightly, vehicles not removed for snow removal, and such. Do we have any of those statistics, Ms. Dorval?
Your worship, not at this time. I can certainly grab that information and present it to you in a report. It's hard to use last year's when we have one enforcement officer based on for the argument for having two, because we'd be catching weekend use, we'd be catching after-hour use, or enforcement and everything like that. So it's really hard to compare apples to oranges in that regard.
Yep, appreciate that. Councilor Norbury. Hang on one second, bud. Gotta shut myself.
Thank you, Mayor Kakalka. Thank you, Chief Curry, for that explanation. I support it. It sounds great. We absolutely need more enforcement of bylaw regulation outside of the 8 to 4. People know, and we need we create these bylaws for a reason. That we can adjust them, we can change them. They're living documents, but the key to that all is somebody watching. So, thank you.
Councilor Noxana.
My question is similar to yours. I'm just wondering how many calls come in after hours, if there's any statistics on, if there's messages left, anything.
Ms. Dorval.
Thank you. Chief Curry?
Your worship, council, I could spitball for you, but no, we don't currently track the amount of phone calls that we get through either social media or just left messages. It kind of varies. Winter months, we're typically quieter on complaints driven stuff. We're going to see more with the unsightly, obviously, as the weather starts to warm up, but not something that we currently track.
Thank you. Councilor Julik.
I guess my question would be, from my knowledge, being here for 12 years, we've never had more than one bylaw officer. My question would be, could we, like, it sounds like there's possibly the need there for it. It's not anything that I would know because it's not my department, but sorry, I'm rambling. My question would be, could we not start off with this part-time to see how that works? Like, what would that look like for scheduling rather than doing a full-time rate to begin with and then analyzing the benefits? Being, as Chief Curry has even just said, about the winter months being quieter.
Ms. Torval.
Thank you. Chief Curry?
Your worship, council, a part-time individual is hard to track on a 4 and 4, so we wouldn't be able to do the extra unless we're talking about having somebody that's working straight weekends, which isn't attractive to individuals. Like I said, we've tried the animal control contractor just for animal control services, and being on call for that amount of time, we failed a few times putting it out to tender to try and gain any attraction for the costs. It's my opinion that having the second bylaw officer, we're going to see more enforcement as a whole, not just on one bylaw for animal responsibility or animal control, but all of the other things, and it can benefit a wide variety of departments right across the district, whether that's just relying on another resource that could be used in an after-hours capacity.
Thanks. Any more discussion? So I know I do have a concern when I see another employee being added. I think it's a huge cost, and does it outweigh what we may get in return in regards to services we see or want? Now, this comes down to council debate whether we want to see an increase in services in bylaw. My biggest concern, and I've heard it from Chief Curry, but previously everything was complaint driven. Previous council and everything else kept on saying, like, why? I still have asked that question, even if it's one employee, why are we waiting for complaints? We have bylaw that's Monday to Fridays, driving around, doing their job, but why do we wait for a complaint for unsightly? I don't understand it. But when I see an increase of, to me, over $100,000 for a small community, Tom Bridge said in their bylaw, I know I'm not in favor of it. I'm going to put a motion on the floor to remove the second bylaw officer in our budget. Seconder. Councillor Hoffman. Discussion. Councillor Julik.
Yeah, it's tough when a staff asks for this because I generally want to trust. No, I trust staff when they say they need it. My concern going forward with a second position is for exactly the items that you mentioned, that currently from, and this I hear within the community, is it's complaint driven. But it's a thankless job. And I think, and when I say that, I'm meaning the pushback that we'll just get from the community. Like I don't think that we have enough information to justify this position at this time. Like, I don't know what that looks like or how we would manage to gather that. I think that that's something that we would have to like maybe look at. Like, so for me, I guess I would want to see, okay, our current bylaw officer is saying like, I just don't have the time to do this. Like, I see this happening, but I don't have the time to go and do this. And I'm not hearing that that's part of the discussion here. If that is, I'd welcome that comment. Prior to that, what I would want to maybe see is then this year, keep an eye on that. See how many calls are after hours, like let's track that kind of information and go from there. When we discuss possibly at the next budget, like for next year, have some more information around that before I would be comfortable approving the second position.
Before I go to Councillor Hoffman, and I'll go to him before I say it or do it, there's always an opportunity to defer the motion as well. And I understand from staff side, they want to try and finalize everything tonight so that they can move forward. Position can always be left in there to defer it, or I'd actually vote it down just with your information and just ask for a report. And to me, it can be pulled out in the next meeting before the bylaw is written. I mean, that would be a small adjustment from staff, if that's some of the information you would need. I mean, I don't think we gave the opportunity to staff to have that full report. It was something I didn't expect to see in budget. I did talk to Mr. Orwell, like, why is that number that? I was unaware that this was a proposal of a concept of a second bylaw officer. I never even thought that would come forward, but. Councillor Hoffman?
Thank you, Mayor. Echoing similar thoughts, nobody's ever brought bylaws an issue up to me. Like, garbage comes as an issue at Tim Hortons, becomes as an issue more often than this sort of thing. So I just want to give Chief Curry some guidance. To convince me, I'd need to see something that would just, a safety issue, a residents' demand issue, just something that says we need to double the budget of bylaw to make life better for the residents here. I love our bylaw. She's awesome. I mean, crow's hit. She's at my front door or something like that. Like I think she's doing a great job, and I don't know if she really needs a full-time backup. And if she does, then even that would help. That the bylaw officer was giving you information that I'd like to do this, and I need that. I just need something. I can't justify a quarter of the total increase to go to one person for one thing that I just don't see as a priority. But I'm open to revisiting this, whether it's part-time or more information. But no, I can't justify a second person as it stands right now. Thank you.
So I mean, I put the motion on the floor, and I understand it from staff, and I can't speak for them and give an opportunity to go to staff. But I guess that we also have to look at it as council, what services we want to give to our residents. So staff put it in front of us. Now, do we want to see more policing by bylaw in regards to whether it's unsightly? I know staff had mentioned more opportunity to get out to move your vehicle signs and stuff for snow removal. Now, does that mean that if they don't move them, that staff's going to start towing the vehicles like the signs say? I don't know. But I think that's what they're looking for. It's a service level that we want to, if we want to increase. At this time, I don't want to see it increase because I think we need to see the end results, I guess, or pre-results to it. But I'll give staff an opportunity just to ask and give an overview of some of the questions. Ms. Torval?
Thank you. Chief Curry?
Your Worship, Council, thank you very much for a great discussion on this. This is exactly what I was hoping for to come out of it. While Council's not hearing the complaints from the public, quite often when we get approached by the after-hours call or the social media thing that comes across, we're forced to say, sorry, bylaw enforcement is done from 8 to 4:30, Monday to Friday, and through regular business hours, Monday to Friday. So I really wanted the conversation, our council to have the conversation to say, where do you want the service level to be? So that at the end of the day, my department is equipped to say, this is where we need to go, that this is what the rationale is between the services that we provide. That's there. We can certainly track the information that you're requesting for the 2023 year. I'm completely fine with that. Open to opportunities for other alternatives rather to doing a part-time in 2024 or anything like that. I appreciate council having that conversation and trying to figure out what's best for the community in that way, because then it provides me direction to tell the individuals that are calling after hours or sending me text messages in the middle of the night to, Facebooks and stuff like that of where we want to go with it, so.
Appreciate that, thank you. Councilor Norbury?
Thank you, Mayor Kakalka. So, like, for me, one of the big issues that I think we're going to have with statistics gain versus statistics we could potentially gain is that as soon as you call bylaw, and I've done it, you get the answer machine, you hang up. So we're not going to get those statistics. And then how many complaints are just being taken to Facebook? Like, how many times do we read on Facebook? It's ridiculous. How many times do we see is their dog's barking all night long? That's a bylaw. Call bylaw, please. Or the dog issues that come up every year. Please, this should be a bylaw issue. Don't take it to social media. Either go talk to the people who's the issues with, and they don't want to do that, so bring it to bylaw. And so that, to me, is a service level increase. If we're not able to go around and patrol and do what you're proposing, Mayor Kakalka, and that's active enforcement, if we want to see a change from the complaint-driven to active enforcement, we need to put our money where our mouth is, so to speak, and pay for that service. So I think our bylaw is lacking. Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Councilor Norbury. Councilor Julik?
I guess I would just say, in regards to those specific things about the noise complaint in the middle of the night, particularly dogs, I'm going to say mostly that's when people are away at the mine and so the dog's barking. But I know that that's not specifically what you're talking about, Councillor Norbury. I think for me, I would still feel better to see specifically where we're feeling the need for that. Like if our current bylaw officer is saying, I need a second person because I just don't have enough people, like I just don't have the time to go to the unsightly premises. You know what I mean? Like I'm not hearing where the specific service is being lost. And so that's for me where I'm not confident today in putting this in place. So I appreciated Mr. Curry's response to that we're having the dialogue around it, because it's not that I would never be in favor. I just need to know where it is that we're missing the services, because if it's a call in the middle of the night, I don't feel like somebody's going out to that anyways. Like that's going to be something that's going to be dealt with during the day regardless. And I agree with you. I think that we need to communicate to people that if you want to complain about it on Facebook, by all means, go ahead. Nothing's getting done on Facebook. You actually have to take the next step. You have to be comfortable complaining about your neighbor with the barking dog. You can't just go on Facebook and hope everybody gets it. So, yeah, I'll be voting in favor of Mayor Kakalka's motion today.
Thank you. Any more discussion? Just have staff read back the motion, please, just because the debate was long.
To remove second bylaw officer from the budget.
Okay. Call the question. All in favor? Opposed? Carried.
Okay.
Staff?
Moving along now to building inspection. So in 2022, the actual was $39,166. Budget was $22,500. And the proposed budget for 2023 is $40,000, which is amounting to a 0.19% increase in taxation and a 77% increase to the budget. And the reason with that was the contract with the Peace River Regional District. The actual amount for 2022 was the $39,000, and so they're bringing the budget in line with what was actually charged. That's all there is on this budget.
Okay. Any concerns from council? Please continue, staff.
Okay. Moving over to emergency services. The 2022 budget was $27,100. The actual is $27,100. The budget was $40,000, and the proposed is $35,970, which is a decrease of $4,030, or 0.04%, or 10% decrease. And that was materials and supplies. They had a budget of $10,500. They've reduced that budget to $6,000, and the actual was 2022 was $3,330, and the $6,000 is more in line with what's been for the past years.
Questions from council? Go ahead.
Okay, capital, as per your spreadsheets, there is a capital item that's in the budget, and depending on council's wishes, we can leave that.
And that's the wireless AV for the EOC, the extra mic. No concerns,
Okay,
please?
we will move over to animal control. Animal control, this budget, the actual was $6,476 for 2022. The budget's $7,650. Proposed is $7,803, which is just a combined small amount of $153 increase and a 0% tax increase.
Can we just get an explanation what that's for?
The small
Mr. Orville?
amounts?
No, like the budget there. Is it just because we budget, or use that amount for when we do animal control? When staff does?
I would defer that to Mr. Curry.
Your worship and council, yes. So it's the operation of the animal control facility at the Public Works Yard. So heat, power, hydro, phone, all that kind of stuff that's there.
Thanks for that. Just a question, if I may, back to staff in regards to that facility. Are we up? I believe we budgeted for an upgrade or some work to be done there. There was some concerns previously to the condition. And I'm just curious if we've done anything there. Mr. Orville?
Are you able to speak to that?
I am. Mayor and council, so previously there was a budget allotment and some concerns brought up with the building in order to bring it up to SPCA standards. We've since done that operationally, including weather sealing and things like that, making sure that the heaters are working. There was some concern with the amount of the flooring that was there. We've since had the SPCA provincial rep come through, and they have no concerns with how our facility is being run.
Perfect. Thank you guys very much. Councilor Norbury.
Thank you, Mayor Kukalka. So in years past, we've had an animal control position. You know, we tried to have a part-time position. It was not successful. It sounded like staff was trying to address the animal control issue with their proposed second bylaw officer. I'd like to know council's flavor on bringing that animal control position back, because we've tried a few years without. I think we've had issues, and I think it's something we should be revisiting.
Yeah, I'm not sure what council thinks. I'll give you my opinion. My thing is, I think majority of it's dealt with on Facebook. People's dogs are loose to get it on Facebook. People go pick them up. I understand there's been the odd time that bylaw picks the animal up and has to take it over to our facility, but majority of it's found on Facebook. So to me, it's not worth spending the dollars, and I understand there's some concerns. We don't have evenings or weekends. I haven't seen a big concern. I haven't heard a big concern from residents. You know, I know staff spoke to it a few times. That's my thoughts on it. I think it's, we spend that money in regards to a contracted service, and I don't think we get we're just paying out money and not 100% needed all the time. That's just my thoughts. I've seen it. I've been on council. I've been a resident. I'm not sure what the rest of council feels like, but that's my feeling. Councilor Gillick?
I would agree with Mayor Kukalka. I think a lot of it gets taken care of on Facebook. I think the things that don't get taken care of, or they fall under the bylaw. I think that this could be one of the things that we ask staff to track when it comes time. Like as we're asking them to track in regards to the second position, that maybe we ask for how many animal calls there are and if they come in after hours or not. And I remember what you said about lots of times people pick up the phone and they hang up when they get the answering machine. But I would agree with Mayor Kukalka's assessment. I don't think at this point that we need it. I think we're pretty fortunate. Everybody in town kind of knows the dogs, mine being one of them, that go off, and there's a couple other ones. But yeah, I'm comfortable where we're at now. But I'm not against having some stats for that for us to look for next year.
Rest of council? Yep. Go ahead.
Moving on to economic development. So in 2022, the actual was $335,043. 2022 budget was $261,399. and the proposed budget is $315,716. There is revenue that's projected to be increased in 2023, so that's a reduction of 7%. There is also an increase in the amount for the conferences which council had directed. So there's a 30% increase, and that is for the FCM, UBCM, where you're wanting to take out for the trade show.
Any questions from council? Nope. Please proceed.
Okay. There is special projects that go along with economic development in the amount of $2,129,105. Of that, majority of it comes from grant funding, some from reserves, a little bit of surplus carry forward. The amount that would be an increase to taxation is $15,000.
So instead of reading every item on the list, is there anything that council has concern with in regards to the capital? Councillor Hoffman?
Thank you, Mayor Kurkaka. I was hoping for some deeper understanding of the 2 million line item for broadband. Referring to a grant, does that mean there's grant funding there, or we're working for grant funding, or where is that right now?
Ms. Dorval? Oh, sorry, staff, sorry, my apologies. Habit.
Through the mayor to Councillor Hoffman, that's a placeholder at this point in time, and looking for grants to be able to do this project. That way it's already built into the budget, so it's there if the opportunity did arise.
Okay, I'm not sure how to handle this, Mayor. We had a delegation that had what I'll call an alternate solution to the last mile problem. I don't know if that would relate to this, since this isn't a current grant that needs to be used in a certain way. I kind of want to direct possibly a report or an alternative to whatever this was thinking, to a different technology, perhaps, a different way of dealing with this. And I don't know if this is an appropriate time to even discuss that.
Okay, I'll get an answer for you in a second. Council Norbury?
Thank you, Mayor Kakalka. To add to your understanding, Councillor Hoffman, we have this $2 million maybe coming from the last time we talked to TELUS. When TELUS came in, sat down in front of us, they said, hey, we could build high-speed internet to Tumbler Ridge. It's going to cost $6 million, and we need an investment from you guys. And they said, hey, we can go get grants for you. We can try and get this and that. And I believe that's where this number comes from. If we want to go through TELUS, which is there.
Okay, just hang
wasn't
on.
open.
Was it an open?
Oh, yeah, 100%.
Yeah, I was just, because I remember it was there was so much, what was that?
Yeah,
Broadband, so,
don't
okay,
worry.
good enough, no, good on you. I was just trying to get clarity. I was looking at staff to try and, okay, my apologies to you, Councilor Norbury. So just if we get clarity for Councilor Hoffman's question in regards to directing staff to come forward with a report in regards to the delegation that we had previously. Do it as a notice of motion or,
Okay, yeah, Mr. Finnegan can speak to this.
Mayor and Council, thank you very much. Further to the delegation on the alternative technology, I followed up with the presenter and just waiting clarity on those figures and what it actually might mean for council. So gathering that information is already in progress.
Sorry. So as I understand, this is essentially meaningless. It's a budgetary item in case something large scale happens that we can move. This is not impacting the finances in any way. No. Okay, then I'm done. Thank you.
okay. Is there anything else in regards to the capital for economic development? Okay. Staff?
Okay. Moving on to Public Works. Public Works 2022 actual was $2,072,517. The budget was $2,352,000. The proposed budget for 2023 is $2,499,000. That's an increase of $146,000 and a budget increase of 6.24% and overall a 1.57% increase to taxation. There's the increase in wages of $137,000. But that is offset by salary, full-time equivalency, which has been decreased, so those two sort of net out on there. So one's gone up by 5, one's gone down by 4%. The only other item is contracting engineering, and that amount has come in at $48,500 increase from $1,500 in the previous year.
Okay, questions from council? The only question or only comment I'll make, it's very tough when we see the paperwork or the information come up on our screen, and I didn't have it ahead of time.
Yeah.
So I have a lot of questions. Is there any positions been added to the Public Works Department? I know you said there was some offset there, that they pretty much washed themselves out, but I'm just curious, why is the increase in full-time, but it washes it out elsewhere?
It was just a way of the allocation of wages. One was salary, some was wages, and it was just the allocation of wages. So one was an increase of $137,400. The other one went down $98,121. It was just a way the allocations went out of how the wages were allocated.
Councillor Julik?
Yeah, if I could just get the numbers a little bit bigger, I'm just looking, when I see the 146,000, I'm just thinking like, so is that just over, I don't know how many lines are there, but the 146 is just based over all of the lines, or is there one specific thing that's come up as an increase?
The increase, the biggest increase is right here in contracted engineering.
Okay.
Contracted engineering, actual cost was $44,000 in 2022, but the budget was only $1,500. And so they put a budget in for contracted engineering of $50,000, which makes up $48,000 of the fund. The other one comes from casual, wages for casual part-time of $34,000.
Can I follow up with that?
Yeah, go ahead.
So the casual, I'm guessing that's probably summer employment, is that, would that be close?
I would have to defer to Mr. Bradley.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Yes, there's some summer labor that's involved in that, as well as a casual employee that's been on staff.
Good.
I guess part of me echoes, yeah, it's just tough to see the 146 there. I guess in the grand scheme of things, I'm good.
Okay. Any more discussion from council? So I understand that Councilor Norbury has it on his thing, and I didn't pull mine up on my email previous. I came in and received my paper agenda. So I guess just next time, if we can have all the paperwork on our agenda. I'm sorry, I like to read it, and I'm trying to follow this, and I'm flipping back and forth. And, you know, if it wasn't from Councilor Norbury talking in regards to the added employee, the new position that we're being added, which would be weird that we wouldn't have a separate report stating we're adding a new position, or 2 new positions, or 3.
Yep.
That we're trying to find it within the sheets. At least if we had that, I'd find it in a labor increase,
Absolutely.
so.
I don't know how you guys are reading that.
Really? That's why I got bifocals. Okay, is there any more questions in regards to that? So can you give me the number in regards to the full-time one that was before it was washed out? It was 140?
The budget increase, the total 146,734 is the total budget increase for Public Works.
Yeah, I know, but you talked about there's an employee, full-time that went 1 something.
Okay, what we're talking about is the wages full-time went from a salary of $251,346 for the budget in 2022, reduced down to $153,134. And the wages full-time went from $559,000 to $696,717.
And that was an increase of?
$137,400.
Okay. Okay, I think I'm following now. Any questions from council? Okay.
Okay, now moving on down to capital and special projects for Public Works. There's $3,108,027 for capital and special projects, of which the majority is funded through reserves, grants, and PRA funding, surplus carry forward, leaving $12,600 that would come from taxation.
Thank you. So instead of reading all items, I'll just ask us if there's any concerns in regards to page 25. Concerns on page 25?
No, sorry, I'm not till 27.
Okay. Concerns for page 25? Okay. Concerns with page 26? Concerns with page 27? Counselor Julick?
I guess I'm still stuck on the pole mount holiday lighting
Okay.
for $12,600. And that it's a 0.13% increase to taxation. I don't know what that looks like in the grand scheme of things, but I just feel like it's one more thing that our staff has to do. And I don't know, I think our town looks pretty awesome at Christmas time, so I'm feeling like we're okay. Like if it's to do some replacement maybe, but if it's just new stuff, I'm okay removing that.
It is new stuff, so it would be for the 2 parking lots, the light posts that are in the parking lots. So it'd be new decorations purchased, and then obviously an install when they do the rest of the downtown. If I could just get correction from staff. I don't want to speak and I'm wrong, but is that correct? If you want to remove it, put a motion on the floor. Councillor Julick.
I move to remove pole mount holiday lighting from the capital and special projects of Public Works, 2023.
Oops, sorry. Seconder, Councillor Dussault. Discussion. Yeah, I guess I'm going to comment. Nobody else wants to talk about it. I'm actually not in support of the motion. The only reason I say it, I think this comes from staff wanting to start adding to some of their stuff. And I think it's an opportunity for them to do it. I mean, it's a small cost to add more lights within the downtown. I mean, I think they do an amazing job on the streets already, Front Street and Main Street. I think it looks amazing what they're doing there, including Town Hall, the Community Center, Fire Hall, and the Vic Center. I think it just adds more to it. For $12,600, I just don't see an issue. I understand it and feel comfortable with that, but yeah, I won't support the motion on the floor. Councillor Noxena.
I do support the motion. I think it's one extra thing at this point. We have amazing lights and Christmas decorations or holiday decorations. I'm not sure if one more is completely necessary, especially when it adds taxation to our residents, our businesses, things like that.
Councillor Norbury.
We can always make it look nicer. So, you know, I mean, the holidays are a great time of year. I know when I look at the Roman walkway area, like where we do the tree light up, that place looks amazing. I'd love to see that more around town to add to the festive part of the holidays. And I think it's something that people do notice and recognize. And it's one of those things you may not see directly, but you'll feel it. And I like how staff have brought this up. And yeah, let's add a little more to the holidays. Even though I'm not a huge Christmas guy, or holidays guy in general, I still see the benefit to our community.
Thank you. Councillor Hoffman.
Thank you, Mayor. Appreciating Councillor Norbury's enthusiasm, I would rather see it be done to something that's a little more useful. Like if we were going to work on an area and make it nicer or add to it, and they wanted to add a flair to it, I would be more open to it than hanging something off of a light post. And to Mayor Krakowka's point, I do encourage staff to bring forward stuff that they would like to do, but for a few weeks out of the year to add some more lights, it's not a lot to the budget, but that's a lot to a person, and I think we could do more with that than hang some more lights.
Okay. Any more discussion? Call the question on the motion. All in favor? Opposed? Motion's carried. So do you have that marked, removed?
It's already done?
Anything else in regards to page 27? Okay. Staff.
Moving right on to solid waste. 2022 actual, $751,512. The budget was $635,111. The proposed budget is $805,095, which is an increase of $169,986, 26.76% increase, or a 1.82 overall taxation increase. Now, I will make the screen, yep.
Isabel said, thank you.
I will increase the screen, and we'll start on this side, and I'll sort of do it, instead of looking at the increase, decrease, I'm going to sort of make it a bit bigger so you can see the budget numbers. So the wages, the actual full-time wages were 264,000 for 2022. The budget was 241, so it went over budget. So the recommended budget increases to 309. The salary, full-time, was 8,997. The budget was 29, leaving it a little bit less is what it's coming in at for 2023. Casual part-time, and this is part of the reason why, is casual part-time was in there, but there was no budget in, and it was absorbed by these other two. So that is why the two increases that you're seeing. Now, benefits full-time, 69,000 was the actual, the budgeted was 89, it's gone up to 102. Contracted services was $90,000 budget, but it came in at 133,000, so they've bumped it up to 146. Natural gas was over, as well as fees and charges. They were at 65,000, but the fees and charges came in at 100, and that's your tipping fees.
Okay, I guess my only question is, are we adding more staff?
There is no staff that are in for hiring in this.
Okay. Counselor Nobre.
Thank you, Mayor Kukalka. My question is in regards to contracted services. What is the, can we have a little more breakdown on the $40,000 increase? Is that, yeah, can we just get a little more overview?
Staff?
I will defer to Mr. Bradley.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Yes, contracted services are anything from trucking companies coming in to remove the bins, tipping fees, and just general cleanup around the transfer station site.
Counselor Nobre? Hang on a second, sorry, I shut my mic off. There you go.
Thank you, Mayor Kukalka. So, just so that it's plainly said, we're finding that we're producing more waste, that we need more pickup and cleanup and the like.
Staff?
Mayor and Council, thank you. Yes, last year was the first year that I've obviously been in here, and we saw an increase throughout the whole season.
Okay, thank you. Counselor Julick.
Okay, so I'm understanding that there's no new positions in those wages and salaries that are there. So I'm just wanting some clarity. Did we find that during the year that we needed more positions and that's why those numbers went up so high? And then also, or do you want me to?
Let's just get clear.
Okay.
That was a question I had, and it was in regards to they overspent in regards to how the positions worked, but just clarity from staff.
I can answer. The total costs that council paid, or that was paid in solid waste for 2022 was $308,772. What is actually budgeted for wages is $271,117.
Follow up?
Okay, so just so I've got my numbers down here right, so we budgeted 271 and we paid 308. Okay, and so that was just like, so to me, that's still like a half, like a part-time job. So, and we're expecting that we're gonna need this level again, like I know.
Same level of service down at the transfer station?
Yeah,
Staff?
We'll defer that to Mr. Bradley.
Yes, moving forward to 2023, we will have to maintain a certain level of service down there. We did, however, roll a position that wasn't budgeted for last year into this year's budget to give it a place, and we also removed a position from the transfer station.
Follow up?
so not in regards to that, I appreciate the clarity on that. The other number that I'm looking at up there is, so natural gas, is that the $15,000? Like, so the combined small amounts, is that what that says? On the very bottom there?
The combined small
Oh, that's the
amount.
144, okay. So that's not what I, so then the, what's the one above that? Fees and charges, okay, and so that was what Mr. Norbury was talking about so far as the truck, no, that was contracted
That was
services.
contracted services.
Okay, so we were at 100,000 and budgeted 65, and then we're going up to 90, because I'm assuming Mr. Bradley thinks that that's where we're gonna be sitting, so, okay. But can you just confirm for me what the fees and charges are about?
Staff?
Those would be tipping fees.
Okay.
Counselor Hoffman?
Thank you, Mayor. I was wondering if the tipping fees went up or we're just using them more, or is it a combination of both?
Staff?
I will defer that one over to Mr. Bradley.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Yes, fees went up. Fuel surcharge was substantial this past year, and we were going through more contracted services just because of usage.
Follow up?
I've got a thing stuck in my head, so maybe you can disavow me of it. Is it possible that it's just an increase in population, that more houses are being picked up, and that we're just using it more, like flat out, they're picking up more garbage each run and so forth?
Staff?
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Yes, we're a free transfer station. And with that, people are going to bring the materials here.
Thank you.
Counselor Julik?
I can't remember if it was it was last week. We talked about the project with the composting. If that came forward, we would just take that out of reserves. We don't have to worry about putting it in the budget right now. Do you remember what I'm talking about?
Yeah, those are those bins, and there'd be a cost to them.
Okay, and then that's okay if it's not in this budget, we would just take it out of reserves? Is that what would happen?
I'm going to stop, but my thing is if we decide to go on to that, and staff Bell will clarify, but I'm assuming we buy the containers and we sell them to the residents if they want them. That's how Dawson Creek did it, but, I mean, there's still, I understand what you're saying, but to me, it would wash itself out, but they might need dollars for that. Ms. Torval?
Did you want to speak to that?
Yeah, I can speak to that. If you're purchasing something to sell back, that becomes an inventory item. That's not a budgetary item, so it sits as an asset until sold, and when you sell it, it goes out that way.
Good for you. Okay. Any more discussion in regards to this? Okay.
Okay.
I got one more. I don't know, like, it's not about to argue about the budget dollars, but maybe we need to figure out this transfer station when we hear we're free compared to anywhere else in the region. So we have other communities that come to our transfer station to drop off boats and cars and whatever else. Is that what staff is saying? Ms. Torval?
Thank you. Mr. Bradley?
Thank you, Mayor and Council. I am not ruling that out.
So not a clear answer. So the reason I bring that up, and it's more of a discussion with council, and we talked about it previously, putting a scale in and stuff like that. I'm not sure if I'm I'm not sure if I'm into spending money to do that. But I wonder if we need to look at and maybe have a discussion at PMP in regards to, right now, I'm not sure how many employees are down there. I know I've been down there a couple times now, and there's clear directional sign that you must check in. Maybe we need to start, if they don't have a sign at the top of the hill, if you don't have a driver's license or a bill with your address of Tumble Ridge on there, it's a $100 fee for whatever you're dropping off here. I think that needs to be, discussed around council and then give maybe some direction to staff to come up and see what they think in regards to a report of that. But if our taxpayers are paying the increases to take possibly other communities' stuff out of our transfer station, I think that's not fair to our taxpayers. So, who was first? Councillor Jillick.
I would like to be able to, I don't know if that needs to be the next PMP, but within the next couple months, can we direct staff for that? Because I'm totally in agreement with you. I know that there's other communities that you have to prove that you live in that community in order to do it. And I would say Mr. Bradley's being kind when he says he's not going to roll it out, because I'm pretty sure everybody in this room is going to say, oh, I know somebody who brought. So
I'm going to go to staff because they're in their light on. Ms. Torval?
Thank you. Mr. Bradley would like to contribute to that discussion.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Another conversation to bring up is the contractor bins, as well as the shingles that we now accept or have been accepting.
Yeah, and I think that it needs to be discussed because I heard that and I heard we're doing it for free, but I don't believe that was what was discussed by council at the time. Is my understanding we're free for shingles, and that's not what we had discussed in regards to have to buy a permit at the front counter to do your roofing. So I think that definitely needs to come back and do it in this motion at the next meeting instead of tonight. Councilor Noxana.
I think before we track or discuss implementing fees, we need to track who is coming to dump. Because maybe it's no one and we're making a big problem, maybe it's a minimal amount. And my other concern is if people are coming from out of town to dump something and they come here and realize they have to pay for it and refuse to, where is that garbage ending up? Because we have volunteers who spend a lot of hours cleaning up the backcountry for us to enjoy because people, even with a free dump, are dumping garbage in our backcountry. So there's so many other weights we have to throw into this discussion.
And I agree, and that's why I say bring up a PP, so we can have a good round table, because I agree with you. I mean, we have an awesome ATV club. Council gave money for them to buy a trailer to haul vehicles around. But I also think we need to start holding the individual accountable when they dump out in the backcountry. You know, Fish and Wildlife need to also come on board. I mean, we had proof that of the VIN number of a vehicle, and to me, there just needs to be enforcement from our side and pushback onto them. Staff, go ahead.
Moving on to capital and special projects for solid waste. There's a budget of 70,000 with the funds coming from PRA, so there's zero impact to taxation.
Any concerns from council? Nope, okay.
Perfect. Moving over to parks. The parks budget in 2022 had an actual of $194,080. The budget was $242,386, and the proposed budget is $266,323, which is an increase of $23,937. Overall budget increase at 9.88 and a 0.26% increase to taxation. Wages have gone from actual wages utilized was 35,497. And actually, why don't I make it bigger at this point so you guys can see what I'm saying? Wages have gone from 35, but the budget was 20, so they've put wages more in line with what was actually expended in 2022. Wages regular part-time was 13,000. The budget was 25. The 2023 budget is 35,148. Benefits are in line. The only other one that I see was a difference is a decrease in contracted services. So contracted services was 71,158 in 2022. The budget was 108,500. So staff have dropped that down to 98,500.
Okay. Councillor Julik?
Could I get some clarity on what contracted services are for parks?
I will defer that to Mr. Bradley. Or Joy.
This is mostly you.
Sorry, contracted services, maintaining the parks. We have caretakers. I believe that would be included into there, as well as park supplies. So us taking care of the picnic tables and whatnot.
I think we need more explanation on that from staff, because my understanding, I thought it was a shared, even including, I know if we're talking about parks, if we're talking about Flatbed and Monkman RV Park, it's a shared profitability. I don't believe we paid Lions Campground anything to take care of the park. They actually give money back to the district at Tumble Ridge. Is Monkman costing us $71,000?
This would be contracted services for all of your parks. This isn't just one park. This is all parks.
Well, I know, like, what are we talking, and when we talk about contracted services, again, I need clarity on that. Because to me, I think we're talking about two campgrounds. Because I believe, unless there's other contracted services we use for playgrounds, but I don't believe so.
I'm sorry.
Thank you, Mayor, through to council. These numbers are a little bit different from what I was familiar with earlier in the budgets that I was reviewing. Because I thought that one of these, was this your revenues? Was there revenues in there?
No, this is strictly the expenditures for contracted services.
Okay, I can't be certain what these numbers are for, but as far as the Monkman RV is concerned, the revenues are received, and then the percentage is given to and it is listed as a contracted service. So that's where there's a little bit of confusion with what's actually a revenue to the district, because although it looks like a revenue, it goes out as a contracted service for that operator. But I'm not, like I say, I'm not familiar with these numbers on this spreadsheet. So I couldn't say if these are,
I guess back to staff, is this somewhere where we're, like, I'm not comfortable, I have that clear answer on that. It was a good question by Councillor Julik. And this might be where we need, like, let's get through this and we can defer the acceptance of it until we get the response back. And I guess just clarity back, if I can, from staff, are we talking about 2 parks or 2 campgrounds? Or is there other contracted services in regards to our playground? Because that's the only thing I can that's the only thing I understand is that would be under parks, and maybe I'm wrong. And I think I just want to look, I'm just looking for clarity to make sure I'm not missing something, and I guess for the rest of council's information.
Absolutely. So when this comes back with the bylaw afterwards, we can have that identified of what is involved with that
Good,
and bring back a separate report on that.
thank you. Any more questions in regards to this?
I guess these are nowhere close to mine.
Councillor Julik?
Sorry, I was looking and I had notes for $24,000, so I think, like, I see that our total increase for that department is 24,000, but what I'm seeing here is, so we've gone from, so we had an actual full-time wages for 35 and a wages part-time for 13. Our budgets were higher, and now we're still budgeting a $35,000 for regular part-time. So does that mean we had a new position come in there? So we started at 13 for 2022, then we actually paid 25, and now we're saying we're gonna pay 35 for 2023, which is double what we actually had in 2022.
Well, I honestly don't understand why we have wages there and we have operators of the 2 parks, if that's, unless I'm wrong. Like, unless we're wrong, like, I mean, I'm sorry, I can't, I know about Flat, but I can't speak in regards to Monkman. If we're talking about the 2 campgrounds, at Lions Campground, the only thing the district numbers does is turns on the water, shuts it off, and picks up garbage like they would anywhere else. That is good.
We can defer to Mr. Curry. He's got it up on the computer for us.
Okay, and I gotta set some mics off here. There you go.
Your Worship, Council. So just looking through May's program and I'll try to provide some light to this. So parks is a combination of multiple things. So yes, you have both Monkman RV Park and you have the Lions, but you also have the soccer fields. You've got our own irrigations. You've got all of our parks for internal within the community have a budget line item to that. So they don't all have contracted services, but those that do. So Monkman RV Park, the Lions, still does have a contracted services. Even though that they're giving us money back, we still have expenditures that still have to happen. So there's an in and an out that happens there. So when we go down, for example, and mow with our mower, that goes down. We spend money, we have expenditures that happens there. They're very small. I can tell you that in 2022, we spent $2,000 in contracted services down there. So that could be from what have you, if we had to have a mechanic look at a lawnmower, for example, or what have you. So there's a lot of things that are in there. Our tennis courts are in there, the ball diamonds, the toboggan hill, tree mitigation, all of that stuff is there, included in the Parks Department.
Thank you. That helps. I mean, that's why I was looking for that clarity, so I appreciate it. Just when we talk about mowing, I believe the Lions mow the lawn themselves down there. The district bought a lawnmower for them? Whatever.
So
I
I can comment to that. So yes, there is a lawnmower that's there, but quite often the district will go down with a larger lawnmower to do the larger areas as we go down. We're down in the area doing the pump house anyway, so it's just something that we do while we're there.
So we charge it to the pump house and not to the campground?
When we do the pump house, that gets charged to PW7, PW8. When we're doing facility maintenance there, it's just larger areas we can go through. Our equipment can take the gravel versus the the riding lawnmower that can't, it spits gravel everywhere.
Thank you for that. Counselor Julik?
Yeah, so I'm still interested in the contracted services because I think that if we have a $72,000 there, and if that's due to Monkman, there's also some income coming in. So to me, that's not a direct cost. So just so we have that offset when we can discuss about it would be my hope there. I'm still kind of wondering though why our salaries or why our full-time and part-time increased so much from 2022. Like, so it's like, so I know they were budgeting 25,000 and 20,000, but to me, that's so that for the 2022 budget, we're only 45,000, whereas 2023, we're asking for 70.
Staff?
That's for summer students.
But we had summer students last year.
I will defer to.
So I guess just before we defer, if we can, the thing is I think what happens is we get stuck on amounts, and I know I am, 100% I am, but so maybe it's the way we're coding it, and there's a decrease somewhere else in that budget that we obviously heard the decrease, didn't really argue the decrease because it's a decrease, but that's because maybe the hours were allotted to parks. But guess we'll wait for staff.
Yeah, sorry. Thank you, Mayor and Council. Yes, there's an increase in summer employment this year that we've requested. It's to actually aggressively tackle the summer road program that we discussed previously. It's so that we can have a crew of individuals that can take on our regular summer maintenance, as well as have an additional crew that can take on road painting, tarring, and whatnot.
Okay, so just that is when we see it in here, is it just because it was allocated to here and just maybe put in the wrong spot? Or are we adding more labor for summer students to parks? I believe that's what your question. It just in the increase in 2022 was budgeted 45,000, say 46,000. Is if you add the two numbers approximate, I'm not gonna add it. And then for the 2023 budgeted, we're budgeting over 70, so 76,000. Is there an increase there for summer students in regards to more maintenance in regards to the camp, or to the playgrounds?
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Yes, the wage for summer students is allocated over multiple codes, and we've also requested 2 additional positions.
Okay, does that answer your question? Okay. Any more discussion? Councilor Norbury, thanks for your input earlier. That it was all, you explained it as we're waiting for staff, so I appreciate that. I never thought about the soccer pitches and stuff, so, okay.
Okay. There is no special projects or capital, so we would be moving on to the golf course.
Okay, so just on that, we're still gonna hear back in regards to contracted services.
I've got
Staff's
it
got that noted?
highlighted with offset written down as a comment, so it is in the file. Speaking of which, I'm going to hit save right now so we don't lose this, because I would be very stressed at this point in time if we lost this. So moving over to the golf course. Now, the amounts you see here are net of the revenue, so it's not that the golf course's actual was only 37,000. It's what revenues less expenditures were amounted to 37,193. The budget was for 23,412, and the proposed budget for 2023 is 62,654, which is an increase of just 39,000, or 0.42% increase to taxation. And a large significant portion of that, and I will make this bigger, is due to less revenue as liquor sales are not happening at the golf course this year.
Okay, so just on how much the staff labor dropped, decreased.
The labor has gone, let me take a look, wages for the casual has gone up, but that's the only wages I have is casual.
So I'm just curious if we're getting rid of alcohol, because that would be, it means that we're running the beer cart. I'm just be curious in how that increased and didn't decrease.
I would defer to Joy.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. So again, the wages, the way finance does it, they're allocated to the department, but then they get spent out to different departments. So there is some discrepancies or, in the wages. So as far as the wages go, it is in line with the 2022 actual. And it's partly because of the continued marshal position that was council's directive.
Okay, so if I could just have 1 second, I just need a motion to continue the meeting past 8 PM. Council? Council Julik?
I'd like to make a motion that we continue the meeting past 8 PM.
Seconder? Councilor Dussault? Discussion? Council Norbury?
Thank you, Mayor Kakalka. This is one of the few times I'll be voting against continuing. And the rationale behind going this long, our effectiveness will sharply decrease after 3 hours. As we go on, we're getting tired. I know I am. We're talking numbers. We've been talking numbers for 3 hours. We may be good for another 15, 20 minutes when we're going to start seeing it drop off. And I think this discussion deserves all of our attention and precision. So I would prefer to defer to another day to continue.
Okay, any more discussion? Councilor Julik?
I'm okay. I appreciate having, I'm sorry, I don't remember how to say Miss Natalie's last name. Weiner? Weiner. Sorry, that was like, anyways, Miss Weiner in the room. So I'm not sure how long she's in town for. So I would, not that we necessarily have to continue tonight, but I would be game if we wanted to do a special meeting tomorrow or something. I don't know. I just feel like we've got 1, 2, 3, 3 really. Non-reporting's kind of a, so anyways, I'm happy to go with the vote.
Okay, any more discussion? Call the question, all in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Sorry to cut off staff, apologies.
No problem. We were deferring over, I think, no, we talked about wages.
So if I can just get clarity, because my apologies, but did we not have a marshal last year?
You did.
So I'm just curious in regards to the increase. So we're getting rid of, my understanding previously, staff, see, talk about being tired. Staff had the services to run the beer cart for the golf course. I believe that will not proceed going forward in 2023. So would we not see a decreasing in staff?
You are seeing a decreasing because the actual budget was 199,000. It's dropped to 196, so there is a bit of a decrease in the budget based on the actual.
In wages?
In wages for the casual wages. So the actual wages in 2022 was 199,320. Even though the budget was only 170, it was increased and went over budget. So the new proposed budget is actually less at 196,577.
Just thought we'd see a bigger decrease. And it's already been brought forward by staff, so I'm just going to make a comment. We talk about council initiative in regards to Marshall. I guess it depends how this council feels, but I know I spoke out before, previously, last year, the year before as well. We want an adult Marshall. No, I know I know for a fact the district has approached the high school looking for youth from the high school. Sorry about that. 100% know that's happened. And I think this council needs to make that understanding whether we want to continue with the Marshall on the golf course or not. But to me, it needs to be an adult. I think we have a hard time when it's young youth or young adults. I mean, they're selling alcohol, trying to enforce whatever your rules may be at the golf course in regards to a Marshall. Councillor Julik.
If I could get you to make that bigger, I'm just curious, we've got, so total operating budget, what it says here is the 62,000, because that's net of revenue. But the increase is $40,000, which is more than that. So can you just show me like why, so I can get clear on why it's $40,000?
It's $15,000 is the loss in revenue.
Okay,
So that makes up 15,000 of it. You have a couple of part-time, which has increases of 3,892 and 4,900, but if you take a look at the actuals, you'll see that's why that one's going up. You'll also see that there's increases in, I'll move it over just a bit, into the natural gas and the hydro, which we all know those increases are there. So when you add up all of those, the loss in revenue with all of those other costs, and the $25,000 based on the actuals for full-time, for the casual wages as well, it all adds up to $39,242.
Follow up?
So with natural gas and hydro, what I'm learning as I'm sitting up here is that we, from what I can gather, we don't break even on the golf cart storage, and I'm assuming that that number is included in our, like, the golf cart storage is included in the golf line?
Yep, the revenue.
I know we've had this discussion, and I think where that would have to come back up would be fees and service bylaw. And I think it's a time to, again, we're all new here, and trying to get everything in front of council all at once, I think it's very tough, but I know staff has been doing a great job in keeping those notes down and getting that stuff forward, and that is an item that needs to come forward. I know we just talked about previously, it won't affect probably this year's budget, except for if we make a decision mid, and we see a bit of an increase in revenue if council decides to go that way.
Okay,
That is the thing, is trying to get everything in front of us.
Yeah, so this can go on, like, I don't know that it has to be, but golf storage, I guess I want to,
Yeah, I know that's in the last discussion, and that's why I'm praising staff, because Ms. Torval right now is keeping a list in her office and stuff that has talked about. I mean, yeah, usually it's done by motions, but I mean, again, sometimes it's just in regards to conversations around our table, and they've been marking around. Plus, I go in and see staff on a regular basis. We've been trying to add this stuff, so we'll start seeing more and more of it coming forward from staff.
okay, I'm comfortable with that then.
Okay. Any more discussion in regards to the golf course on the screen? Okay.
Moving on to golf course, capital and special projects. That is a budget of $94,000 that was approved previously by council. That's being funded by PRA funding, surplus carry forward, but there is a $30,000 that will be coming from taxation, which is a 0.32% increase to taxation.
So instead of reading line by line, I think I'll just do the same thing. If there's any concerns in regards to page 30 for the golf course capital. Okay, and what about page 31?
31 is facilities.
Oh, I'm sorry, did I say 31? Yeah, so I guess it's just 30. My apologies. I thought I had 2 pages there, but, okay. Staff?
Okay, moving on to facilities. I want to mention that facilities was last year was, from my understanding, the first year facilities came in to as a budget items put together. So while you'll see that the actual is 263 versus the budget of 163, this is because it's part of a learning curve. Some budgets are having to reduce, others are increasing, but they're all in the general fund. So it's going to be a little bit of a learning curve over the next couple of years. So the proposed budget for 2023 is $176,000, which is an increase of $12,600, and amounts to a 7.71% increase in the budget and 0.13 for taxation. There is a 2% increase for salary, but there's decreases in repairs and maintenance, natural gas in this one. This was one where the budget was higher than the natural gas where it actually came in. But the most significant adjustment is in materials and supplies. The materials and supplies actual for 2022 was $14,611 versus the budget of $400. And so that is, they're recommending to increase the budget to $13,500, which is a 5.81% increase, and that's where the majority of the 12% comes from. I can make that bigger.
I'm sorry, can you just explain the P&G? Was it an increase or decrease?
Natural gas?
Yeah.
That one actually decreased because came in at 3,000 and the budget had been 4,500. And so it was actually one of those rare ones where the budget was actually higher than what the actual charges were. And so we've reduced it to 3,500 to bring it more in line with what actual costs are.
And when we make comments, facilities, is that the community center? Or part of it?
Okay, that's all of your facilities that you have moved into it. Joy could probably speak more to exactly what all the facilities, but you've got the, I know the condos are in there, you've got the golf course, the actual building. So all of your physical buildings are what's in this budget.
Okay. So the P and G that's on there is for where? Is that for just the golf course?
I would have to defer this one over to,
Again, I'm Mayor through council. So there, yeah, we've been given some new codes for facilities, and so we're kind of in the transition of starting to use those new facility codes. And like Natalie suggested, it's everything from the golf course to the condos to the visitor center, the museum, all those facilities. So we're slowly transitioning, so I would have to check some of the records to see exactly what this natural gas would be for. But it definitely wouldn't be for a whole facility at that rate.
And that's why I asked that question, because when we talk about facilities, I'd be curious. Thank you. I heard it's Willow Hall. Okay, makes sense to me.
okay, so based on that, for facilities, if council has nothing else they wish to add, we can move on to capital and special projects. And there's capital and special projects in the amount of $276,000, of which $6,000 would be from reserves, $235,000 would come from PRA, leaving $35,000, which was going to come from taxation, and that amounts to 0.37% increase in taxation.
Okay. Any questions from councils in regards to page 31? Councillor Julik.
We talked before about, I guess I'm not really excited about build an additional shed or purchase a CCAN. I think we need to give more specific direction on that.
I believe specific direction was given on a CCAN, I believe, at one of the meetings. Ms. Torval? I'm pretty sure that's what we decided, the CCAN up at the public works yard. Could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure. Ms. Torval? Yeah.
Okay, I'm good with that then.
I know I had the same question, but I remember that conversation. Councillor Noxana.
Don't we already own those CCANs, or is this a new purchase? Are the CCANs there just for nonprofits?
Correct.
So this would be a new.
New purchase. Any more questions in regards to capitals on page 31? Staff?
Moving on over to community services. So, community services, the actual 2022 expenditure was $2,500,000 roughly. The budget was $2.6 million, and the proposed budget is $2.7, which is an increase of $126,000, or overall budget increase of 4.83%, or an increase of 1.31% to taxation. I want to note that revenues has gone, there was $205,000, which was actual revenue versus the budget of $204. So revenue's been reduced in 2023 by $28,000, and that makes up 1% of the budget right there. The other one is salary, and the reason I'll make this bigger so you can see this. Wages are allocated to one spot, so you can see that the salary was $134,000, but you can see that there was standby, casual. These wages were not actually budgeted for, so you have to look at all of this as a whole. So when you look at it as a whole, there was $200,000 spent on salaries in 2022. The budget was $156,000, which resulted in the budget going to $206,000. Now, the other thing to look at is there was a contracted services. The actual budget was $163,251. The 2022 budget had $225,000, so staff have reduced that. So they've reduced the budget there by $122,000 for contracted services. And then the other one was another case of revisiting the hydro for the community services. The actual hydro was $127,871. The budget was $146,000, so staff reduced it by $13,500 to bring it more in line.
I got P&G numbers there.
Right there, $159,403 was the actual. The budget was $162,300, so they're bringing it in at $162,600.
So, can we look into what 2021 was? And the reason I asked for these numbers in regards to heat reclaimer that was installed, there should be a significant savings when it comes to P&G.
I know one function had a savings in it when I was reviewing. I don't know what the numbers are offhand.
Just because the heat reclaim would be for the whole building. So we should see a decrease in P&G. I thought a bigger decrease than that.
I believe there was between 2021 and the 2022 budget.
It was just finished installed in 2022
it
in the fall, so we should have seen a decrease.
The natural gas for community services?
2021.
21. $163,748.
Okay, so I'd just be curious of why we're increasing that this year to 160 something.
For a slight increase because it came in at 159, but I see what you're saying.
Sorry, I thought you said 149. So we really haven't seen a decrease with the heat reclaim installed.
It was 159,000 in 2022.
Okay. I guess just back to Ms. Torval, I know there was a sign that was supposed to be going up in the community center in regards to this heat reclaim, and it was able to be trackable of what we're saving in regards to the heating cost.
I think that would probably come up for next year, for this year, for
Okay.
23.
I wouldn't know till actual numbers come in. I can only go based on the numbers that we have.
Oh, yeah, so I guess we haven't seen the actual, sorry, my apologies. Thanks, that's what you're saying. My apologies, sorry, I was thinking actuals were already in.
Yeah.
Have we installed that sign in regards, because I thought it was trackable? There's a sign that was supposed to go up in regards to this heat reclaimer being installed.
Just one moment. Ms. McKay?
Through to council. So it's called the dashboard is what we're calling it, and it's actually will be displayed on the TV that's located in the bottom lobby. They're just working out some of the kinks as far as what we want to see displayed. They had the company that was supposed to give us the software folded, so now the contractors are looking for a new provider. So they've given us some examples of what it would look like, and originally we were gonna have like a slideshow that showed, how many trees we've saved or how many cars we took off the road and that sort of thing. So they are working towards that. So in the back line, they are utilizing it and they're watching it and they're tracking. But as far as displaying it to the public, we haven't got that software yet to be what we want it to be. And you're correct, the heat recovery system just got implemented, so I don't know that there was all that much time to really see any savings for 2022, and that I would look forward to those in 2023.
Do we know the completion date on the heat reclaim, Mr. Torval? Yeah, did we know when the install was completed? I thought it was September or August, I thought.
It's later in October, I believe.
Okay.
It was, yeah.
So the only reason I asked that question, I know what, I have a heat reclaimer. I know my gas bill's more than half, cut in half. So that's the only reason I asked that, so, okay.
So
Any more, sorry? Council Knoxana.
I'm just wondering why benefits, we're budgeting an extra $100,000 for benefits for next year. I can see our wages are an extra $100,000, but that doesn't seem to add up.
benefits, I'm seeing an increase of 50,000 for benefits full-time. I'm looking at wages full-time going up for, or are you looking for both of them because of the increase for both?
Yeah. Over what we've paid.
I would be deferring to,
Yeah, I was looking at what we paid in 22 compared to budgeted, sorry.
okay,
Yeah.
yes. Those wages and benefits are tied to the actual staffing and the positions. I would have to defer to Ms. McKay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor, through to council. So again, it's kind of a learning curve right now with the way that the wages are budgeted. So they are budgeted in one location, but then they get allocated out to other departments and areas. So like you say, the standby, the regular part-time wages, like there's nothing budgeted there, yet money was allocated to that there. And also for the department in 2022, there was a new manager position was created, which is probably reflecting in that wage, in those numbers as well.
That's your question?
It's, yeah, not exactly. I'm specifically looking at the benefits and $100,000 extra. Like, we're budgeting $100,000 extra specifically for benefits than we paid last year, and that doesn't seem to compute into the wages that we're expecting to pay next year. So is there increased benefits that are coming forward, or maybe like part-time positions moving into full-time?
Staff?
I'm not sure, like for staffing, yeah, sorry.
No, don't be sorry.
I've highlighted the sections for you, so this is the actuals. This is what was budgeted last year, this is what's budgeted for this year, and this is the difference. Do you need it a bit bigger?
Yep.
This is the highlighted section is the benefits. And this first row is 2022 actual.
And actually, the 89 is part-time benefits right underneath the 302.
Yeah, that's gone down.
Yeah, I added them.
Yeah, okay, to net it out, yeah.
So that would reason why we're increased by 100,000
Yeah.
in regards to benefits. That's your question?
I go with the allocation that the benefits are at 31% based on the positions, and the system puts it in. I can take a look, delve in deeper, and give feedback on it when we come forward. I'll leave it highlighted.
Yeah, that'd be great. It's just weird to have it jump so much from what we paid.
Absolutely, not a problem.
Okay. Any more questions from council? Okay.
Okay, moving on to capital and special projects. For community services, what's currently proposed is $1.5 million, of which all but $11,255 would come from either reserves, grants, PRA funding, and would amount to 0.12. I do want to highlight, though, staff are recommending one project, which is the community center front desk renos be removed, which had an increase to the 0.09 to taxation, or 8. So if council's in favor, we can remove that from this budget.
Okay, we'll talk about it when we get there.
Yeah.
Let's start it. Okay, any issues in regards to capital on page 32? The only thing I'll make comment of, and I think we've made comment every time we've seen the budget, again, the leg press sale says safety concerns. Just be aware. To me, when councils, we keep bringing it up and staff confers that there is no concern, but we leave it in there saying safety concern. I mean, this is a huge concern when I know myself, when I hear safety and we still have yet to tag it out. If it's not safety, then I think we need to remove the word safety.
Yep.
Councillor Julik?
Sorry, it's not for that page.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, the thing is, you know, we talk about it and the residents will see this tonight and that'll be the first question. Well, it's still on there. It says safety concerns. That's the only concern I have on that one. Page 33. Oh, no, go ahead, Councillor Hoffman.
Just to be clear with Spray Park, where is that at right now? With a 500 from reserve allocated for it? I don't recall that, and maybe my memory is just failing me.
It doesn't proceed unless there's a grant that comes through.
Okay. So, but there is a 500 town cost of reserve if the grant funding does come through.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, sorry, page 33. Councillor Julik.
Yeah, I just was gonna ask why staff wants to remove that. The community center front desk rentals.
Staff?
Well, I can speak to it. Thank you, Mayor and Council. Staff is suggesting or recommending that we remove it this year. It is kind of late, and by the time if council were to approve this, or if we kept it in the budget, it would be late because we would need to have, to get some drawings, schematics, designs, et cetera, and then put it out for tender, and it probably wouldn't get done until next year anyway. So because of the lateness of the year, staff is recommending that we pull it out this year and look at it early next year, start working on it early next year.
Okay, so I guess my question back to staff would be is, should we not start the process? The drawings, get the drawings back in front of council to have that approved before budget of 2024? Just so that next year we're not behind the ball again? So would we need an amount there to be able to start that process, at least, get what staff's looking for? I know there's some legals coming out in regards to accessibility and such, to make sure we're following that, but at least have an amount there to start so staff can start that process.
If I could make a recommendation?
Yep.
My recommendation is you've got 90,000, or an amount there, that's PRA funding. I would utilize that amount from the PRA funding and put that for a design for the future project, and then it has no impact on taxation.
Okay. Councillor Noberry.
Thank you, Mayor Kakaka. So we should be making a recommendation to reduce the community center front desk rentals to a cost of $90,000.
Yeah.
I'll so motion.
I'll second that. Discussion? Okay, call the question. All in favor? Carried. Any more discussion in regards to page 33? Okay. Staff?
I am just doing some mad calculating right now.
Yep, no problem, sorry.
No, no worries. We've done it. It's all in there. So what I would like to do is go back to the before we go to non-reporting. So based on the decisions made tonight, this is the increase. So it would be an operating budget increase of 3.87%, an increase with capital of 1.58%, and a total taxation increase of 5.46%. So that's where council's coming in at. Now, we'll move over to non-reporting. The biggest part of non-reporting is transfer to reserves, other than repayment of a loan. And now council can choose to reduce what they put to other reserves. So as you can see, transfer to reserve for future expenditures was budgeted at 1.37 million in 2022. That budget is still continuing on into 2023. Council can choose to reduce that amount. However, the other side of that is if they choose to reduce the reserves for future expenditures, there goes your plans for asset management.
Council? Councillor Julik?
Yeah, this is one of those times at 3.5 hours in that I'm not fully understanding. So, revenue collected for other taxing authorities. So we're down 228,000, or is this one of those goofy accounting things that it says minus, but it's actually positive?
If you take a look, that means we're collecting revenue for like the Peace River Regional District, BC Assessment Authority. The money's getting collected, and you'll see at the very bottom line, there's a number that's a positive that actually matches identical to that. So that is the amount of money that we have to send off to the Peace River Regional District, the BC Assessment Authority. So those numbers net out to zero. So the only ones that are changing is there's been a slight decrease to the transfer to statutory reserves, and then there's transfers to reserves for future expenditures. Those are the two lines that I'm looking at as having the opportunity, if council wished, but that has other implications.
Councillor Hoffman.
Thank you, Mayor. A very brief reason on why we would actually want to do that, since it's zeroing out, why would we want to do a transfer to reserves for future expenditure reduction?
Only reason would be as if council didn't like the 5.46%
So
taxation.
just creating, okay.
But it will come back in the next year as an increase to taxation. It's only a one-year break.
So it's a stall. Thank you.
Council Nobre?
Thank you, Mayor Kakalka. So I'll speak to the reserves for future expenditures. It's something that, it took a break over COVID because everything took a break for COVID. But there was a big push on making sure that municipalities are putting away funds for capital infrastructure. We need to be saving money for replacements. And my question is, this number, we've based this previously by policy, isn't that correct?
I believe it is, and that's where the number has come from and is in there. You're always at liberty of making it more or less.
The reason why I ask that is because I want to think back to the policy discussion that we had, and we're not transferring 100% of the replacement costs. We're actually going 80 because we're anticipating potential grants. So I'm just kind of hoping for clarity. I know it's kind of from left field. Are we planning for 100% amortization, or only 80%, or a mixture of both, or am I just out to left field and this should be a discussion for another point?
Through the mayor to Councillor Norbury, I'd have to do some calculations to see if you are, as the 2022 financial statements are not yet completed, I can't do some real exact of letting you know where you are on track until those numbers come in. But yeah, from my own looking, it's kind of low, so.
Council? Sorry, my brain isn't thinking, but Councilor Hoffman.
Short of it for me is this is well below what I think inflation is right now, so I would say that we're doing pretty well with the level of service we're keeping, and I think we're gonna have some more costs with what we were talking about earlier, but for right now, I am comfortable with the numbers where it is at, and I would not want to transfer to reserves or take out any of the reserves. So I'm good with what we ended up with, so that's where I sit.
Thank you. Mr. Council? Yep. All right. Did you have something? Sorry. What's staff looking for from now? We're good until you come forward in a few weeks.
From here, staff will go forward with building up the 5-year financial plan.
And bring us back the information we
The two
requested.
reports
Thank
that
you.
you're requesting, yes.
Okay, thank you. Alrighty. 5.4 Growing Communities Fund, report dated March 27th, 2023, from the interim CEO, and Director of Corporate Services regarding the Growing Communities Fund. And I just got to find my other page, page 4. Recommendation. Councillor Julik.
I would like to defer the report dated March 27th from the interim CAO to our next P&P or regular meeting, whichever they find appropriate.
Seconder for deferral. Council Nobre, discussion? There's a reason why we're deferring it?
Because it's 8:30.
Oh, okay. No reason I asked. Council Nobre?
Thank you, Mayor Kakalka. I mean, I think council stuck around for the important stuff with the assistance of Natalie. I apologize, I don't want to mess up your last name. I'm usually pretty good at pronunciations, but allow me this one. And I think, you know, we did a good job by having her here, and we did the important stuff, but this one we could talk about in another meeting in a week. So I'm happy to defer.
Took 3 minutes. Okay, call the question. All in favor? Opposed? Oh, carried. Notice of motion? Okay, question and answer period. Ms. Torval?
So I did get a question, but it was regarding the museum roof.
Councillor Dussault.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, I have a meeting tomorrow, and I would like to go back. I asked a few meetings ago about the roof for the museum, and I was just wondering if we had an update on any information on that.
Staff?
Council? Yes, there is an update on that. You're correct, there was a budgeted amount, I believe it was $20,000 for the museum roof. And the contractor came in, did an assessment of the roof, so the museum roof was assessed. And it was determined that it didn't need a full replacement other than repairs in certain areas of the roof. So that's what took place.
So those repairs were completed?
Yes. Yeah.
Any follow-up, council, do so? No, I'm sorry. I'm tired.
Thank you, Mayor. No, that answers my question. Thank you very much.
Not to put staff on the spot, but I am going to put Ms. Torval on the spot. And I'd just like to maybe get it out there for anybody that is watching our live feed. How do we get questions to you? Like, we always come to you asking you about question and answer period, and you check your email. I was just curious how residents that may be watching would be able to get in contact with you.
When we were, during COVID and when we were closed, most part, then they would send emails. It was put on our notice boards that sent CAO at dtr.ca. They could email them in, but other than that, that's about it.
Okay, no, I appreciate that, and I just think that's something maybe needs to be added to our agenda. Question and answer period, you can email our CEO at, just because I think there's some people don't know how to be able to do it since they don't come and sit in our gallery. I mean, I would like to see the gallery. Now we have a projected 4.6% tax increase. You know, hopefully our residents speak up if they're not happy with an increase. And that's why I hope there's people in our gallery. Rise and report. This was supposed to be done earlier after our closed and coming back into live, but I needed some information, so I don't want to forget to do rise and report. So here they are, that the district utilized operating reserve funds for 2023 and then increased user fees and parcel taxes by 13% per year for the next 4 years until user fees funds the operating budget of sewer fund? Sewer fund. And number 2, that council approves Appendix C in the exempt staff salary review report effective April 1st, 2023. Adjournment. Councilor Julik, seconder. Councilor Hoffman, all in favor?